Hey everyone, Dave here with another Blu-ray collection update haul video. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Wave 23 from Imprint Films. This is the November 2022 wave. It's taken me a while to get around to it, but we're finally here, so let's get into it. Alright, as I said at the top of this one, we're going to be taking a look at Wave 23 from Imprint Films. There's quite a few titles to take a look at here. These dropped in a few months ago, but I had Wave 23 and Wave 22, 23, and 24 all arrived in pretty quick succession, and it took me ages to get through them all. We are finally here, as I said, so let's kick into it. Firstly, we're going to be taking a look at numbers 178 through to 183 from the Imprint collection. These are all bundled up as part of the After Dark Neo-Noir Cinema Collection 2 box set. Imprint is having a huge success with their noir box sets. They have done 4, or they've just announced the 4th film noir box set of all classic noirs. This is the second of the neo-noir cinema box set, so the 90s revival noir kind of subset of the genre. This has got a collection of 6 movies bundled inside this beautiful hard box set, as Imprint always does with these things. Of course, inside the box set you will find all 5 of the movies in their own individual Amore cases presented right here. We've also got a little exclusive booklet that has got some writings and essays and stuff on all of the movies included here as well. The movies included here are Blue Steel, Internal Affairs, The Crimson Rivers, The Way of the Gun, The Yards, and Narc. As you all know, I'm a huge fan of film noir, so I really love these noir box sets, and I just want Imprint to keep pumping them out. As I said, they've just announced the 4th of the regular film noir series. I can't wait for that one, but for now we do have this one to take a look at. There's quite a few titles in here, as I said. I'm going to take a look at them all very briefly. I'm still on a crusade to get these videos much shorter than they are. I know I can get them shorter. So we're going to just briefly go over the movies and my very brief thoughts on them. As far as video quality goes with all these movies, I had absolutely no issues with any of the titles in this box set right here. As far as 90s noir goes, they're always very grungy. They're very seedy looking. They are full of grain and full of kind of desaturated colors. And these movies just kind of look really great on this format right here. They've all cleaned up looking really nice. I think most of these at least are just kind of studio masters, so don't expect anything too fantastic. These are all probably older masters that were done by the studio maybe 10-15 years ago, maybe older in some cases, and have just been supplied to Imprint to release right here. So don't expect anything too spectacular. These are just kind of what you would expect from a standard studio release. Let's take a look at the titles here. Firstly, we'll take a look at Blue Steel, which stars Jamie Lee Curtis. When rookie cop Megan Turner shoots a burglar dead, she isn't aware someone has been watching. A psychopath who draws Turner into a deadly game of wits. Blue Steel is complemented by a whole selection of brand new bonus features, including interviews with editor Lee Percy, film historian Professor Jennifer Moorman, and production designer Tony Corbett. There's also a brand new video essay by film historian Chris O'Neill, and an original theatrical trailer. Blue Steel, now this is probably my favorite one from the entire set here. I did kind of have mixed feelings on some of the movies in here. I didn't really love all of these ones, which was a bit disappointing. As I said, I love film noir. I usually enjoy pretty much anything, but I kind of had mixed feelings on most of the titles in this box set. But Blue Steel, I thought was really good. I thought this was a lot of fun. It's almost kind of a mix between a noir and like your typical 90s thriller. When you think of these 90s thrillers, they were always imbued with kind of noir crime elements anyway, so they kind of do go hand in hand. But this one just felt like a really great, fun 90s thriller. I really enjoyed this. Jamie Lee Curtis is a lot of fun in this. There's a lot of thrills, there's a lot of great tense moments, there's a lot of great action sequences in here too. I had a lot of fun with it. As I said, my favorite one from this box set, I think you'll all enjoy it too. Next we have got Internal Affairs, starring Richard Gere and Andy Garcia, and directed by Mike Figgis. Dennis Peck knows his way around the law. He can launder money, run a scam, fix a bad rap. He can even, for the right price, arrange a murder. But investigator Raymond Avila is determined to bring Peck to justice. This edition comes complemented by a handful of brand new and exclusive bonus features, including an audio commentary by film critics Elaine Silver and James Orsini, and interviews with director Mike Figgis, screenwriter Henry Bean, and co-composer Anthony Marinelli. It also comes with a number of previously released extended and deleted scenes, an alternate ending, and a trailer. Now, Internal Affairs is a title that was released on Blu-ray by the studio many years ago. It's one that's been sitting in my collection for probably 10 plus years, and I've been meaning to get around to it. I just never got around to it. Finally, this did give me an excuse to finally check it out. Unfortunately, I was a little bit underwhelmed, a little bit disappointed. Sometimes you get really excited to watch a movie over such a long period of time, you finally get to it, and it's not as great as you expected. This is kind of a typical 90s thriller noir, but I felt it was a little bit soft. I found in some parts it was maybe a little bit boring, very generic, a lot of stuff that I've seen in these movies before. Richard Gere and Andy Garcia put in pretty decent performances here, but it's certainly not the best that either of them have delivered in their careers. As I said, this has been available on the local market before. I believe the studio release Blu-ray is out of print, so this is probably your only way to get your hands on this movie if you do want to get it. Look, I enjoyed it, I had fun with it, I just didn't think it was the greatest. Next up, we have got The Crimson Rivers, starring Jean Reno and Vincent Cassel. When France's leading serial killer investigator is called to investigate a grisly murder, he enters a world of secrets, lies, and unthinkable horrors. Each murder means something more, each victim a guilty conspirator in a grand immoral experiment. This disc is complemented by a whole handful of archival bonus features, including audio commentaries, documentaries, featurettes, storyboard breakdowns, an isolated musical score, and trailers. Unfortunately, no new bonus features for this right here. Now, this one is a French language film. A lot of early French film, even the new wave kind of French film, really borrowed heavily from film noir. The new wave was particularly always about kind of taking American films, the Hollywood style, and turning it on its head, doing something different, more experimental with it. And they always tended to borrow quite a lot of elements from noir. So it's interesting now to see a French noir film from the 1990s, because as far as I'm aware, there wasn't a whole lot of these. I thought this was really good. I love Vincent Cassel and Jean Reno. They are both really great performers. Cassel is one of my favorite French performers, particularly contemporary performers, and I just thought this was a lot of fun. I love French films, I love French filmmaking, and the kind of different kind of take they put on things. And as they did with the new wave, with this film right here, there's kind of a different, like, kind of European almost slant on the film noir genre, and I thought it was a really cool thing to experience. This one has a lot of really great action sequences, a lot of really great thrills and tension, and the two performers again deliver really great performances here. This is one that I could highly recommend from this collection as well, because it is really great. Next is The Way of the Gun, starring Ryan Felipe and Benicio del Toro. Longtime partners Parker and Longbauer are hoping for a quick and non-violent payoff when they abduct a young woman carrying the child of a wealthy southwestern couple, but kidnapping proves to be much more complicated, logistically and psychologically, than other felonies they've committed. Once again, this one is mostly complemented by archival bonus features, including an audio commentary by director Christopher McQuarrie and composer Joe Kramer, an isolated music score, cast interviews, and trailers. However, there is also a brand new audio commentary by film writer Travis Woods, exclusive to this set. This was one that I was really looking forward to, but unfortunately it was one that just really didn't work for me. This didn't really feel like a noir to me. This kind of just really felt like a generic 90s action movie that wasn't particularly that great. I know a lot of people do really love this movie. This is one of those ones that kind of has a cult following. It has had a kind of a cult following over the years, but it was something that just felt really kind of generic and slightly boring about this one to me. I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan Felipe. I like Benicio del Toro's work, but I felt like he didn't really deliver his best right here. There are some really fun action sequences in here. There's a great kind of shootout sequence towards the end of the movie, which is really fun. But this just, in parts, does kind of feel like a generic action film. I didn't really get the kind of noir vibes from this. Still, a decent movie. I'm happy I checked it out, but it wasn't one that I really loved, and I think maybe they could have found something else to include in this box set. Next we have got The Yards, starring Mark Wahlberg, Joaquin Phoenix, Charlize Theron, Faye Dunaway, Alan Burstyn, and James Caan. Released from prison after taking the fall for a group of his friends, Leo Handler just wants to get his life back on track. But when he takes a job with his powerfully influential Uncle Frank, Leo finds himself unwittingly drawn into a world of sabotage, high-stakes payoffs, and murder. This disc is complemented by a bunch of brand new interviews with director James Gray, actress Alan Burstyn, production designer Kevin Thompson, and film critic Tim Roby. It also includes a number of archival bonus features, including an audio commentary by writer-director James Gray and filmmaker Steven Soderbergh, a number of featurettes, deleted scenes, and a theatrical trailer. This one is one of the earliest films from director James Gray, who most recently did Ad Astra, which is a movie that I really loved. It also comes from writer Matt Reeves, who did the most recent The Batman movie, which I really loved as well. This is a movie that came out in 2000. It has got a stellar cast, and somehow I never heard of this one. This is a movie, I've watched thousands of movies, and this was like my peak movie time in the early 2000s when I was like exploring absolutely everything. And somehow this one has completely slipped my radar all of these years. Essentially what happened, I believe this is a movie that flopped hard at the box office. It wasn't reviewed very well. It's one that has gone on over the years to get a bit of a cult following. The theatrical version of the movie, I believe, was kind of cut up by the studio, and it wasn't how the director intended it. I think a new ending was filmed for it, and it was just not the movie that James Gray had intended, so he went back and did a director's cut of the movie sometime later. Both cuts of the movie are included right here. The director's cut, I think, is actually slightly shorter as well, but yes, both versions of the movie are included right here. I took a look at the director's cut because I guess I kind of understand how this one flopped at the time. I think coming into the 2000s, the neo-noir kind of crime thriller thing is starting to become a bit old hat again. People are showing less interest in these kinds of movies. This does have a stellar cast, but you have to consider the fact that Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, Joaquin Phoenix were not the A-list stars that they are now. They were kind of big and upcoming stars, but they weren't like the Hollywood royalty that they are today. Of course, James Caan is in here as well, but James Caan did a lot of movies like this around this period. Again, this is a movie that I have a hard time maybe considering a noir. It did just kind of feel like a crime thriller from the early 2000s. I did enjoy this one to some extent. The writing here is great, the filmmaking is great, the performances are really great, but it is kind of long and tedious and a little bit confusing as well. And I feel I do understand why this movie didn't do so well when it was first released, either critically or commercially. It didn't really have a lot going for it either way, but this is definitely an interesting movie to take a look at. Particularly, I guess for me, the most that I took out of this was checking out an early work from James Gray and Matt Reeves and all these great stars who are some of my favorites. And I think for that reason alone, this is a movie that is definitely worth checking out. But go into this with your expectations tempered a little bit, because it is not great. It's not one of the best things you'll ever see. And finally, we have got Narc, starring Jason Patric and Ray Liotta. A suspended undercover narcotics officer is reluctantly drawn back onto the force to find the truth behind the murder of a young police officer killed in the line of duty. He is teamed with the slain officer's partner, a rogue cop who will stop at nothing to avenge his friend's death. Once again, Narc is complemented by a number of brand new interviews, including ones with Jason Patric and Ray Liotta, director Joe Carnahan, and composer Cliff Martinez. It also comes with a number of archival bonus, including an audio commentary, featurettes, and a theatrical trailer. Again, we have got another early 2000s noir, this one from 2002, and in this one we can start to see that filmmakers are starting to push the boundaries of this genre. They're starting to get a lot more violent, they're starting to get a lot more heavy in their themes, and they're starting to get a lot more confronting and graphic and all of that kind of stuff. Narc certainly ticks all of those boxes. This is a movie that I've wanted to see for a very, very long time. One of my best mates, this is their favorite movie. He used to go on about this all the time. If you used to listen to my podcast, I am of course talking about The World's Worst Manager, Wacko Jacko. He loved this movie so much. He worked it up so much over the years. I was so excited to finally get a chance to watch it. Didn't love it. I don't know what it was about this. Performances are great. The filmmaking here is great. It was just a story that I didn't really love. I don't know. I'm never really into these kind of drug, kind of narcotics, like crime, thriller kind of things. And this was one that just kind of felt really generic and like I had seen it all before. It's almost like Training Day in its style and its performances and all of that, but like a kind of poor man's Training Day. I didn't really love this. I didn't think this was the greatest movie, but I know it does have a big fan base, and this looks great on Blu-ray, finally out on Blu-ray here in Australia, which is awesome. And look, I'm happy I finally got a chance to see it, but I just didn't love it. Next up is another Director Spotlight box set, directed by Roland Joffé, which includes 4 of the filmmaker's landmark films. Once again, directed by Roland Joffé, comes in a sturdy, hard box and includes all 4 of the movies in their own individual Amaray cases. The movies included here are The Killing Fields, The Mission, Fat Man and Little Boy, and City of Joy. Unlike the Neo-Noir set, this one doesn't come with a booklet, but is still a beautifully designed package overall. Once again, we'll briefly go over all the movies in here one by one, touching on my very brief thoughts. Firstly, we have got The Killing Fields. He was a reporter for the New York Times whose coverage of the Cambodian War would win him a Pulitzer Prize for international reporting. But the friend who made it possible was half the world away with his life in great danger. This is the story of war and friendship, the anguish of a country, and of one man's will to live. The movie comes complemented by a bunch of brand new interviews, including one with actor Julian Sands and one with cinematographer Chris Menzies. It also includes a brand new documentary on composer Mike Oldfield's score. Alongside this, we've also got an archival audio commentary by director Roland Joffé and a theatrical trailer. The set also comes with a bonus disc, including the feature-length documentary The Killing Fields of Dr. Hayne S. Noir, which likewise comes with a bundle of bonus features. Killing Fields has long been regarded as one of the most powerful, most harrowing, most confronting war films ever made. It's not exactly a war movie. It doesn't give you an overview of the Cambodian War. In fact, this is a movie that could probably give a little bit more context behind the backstory of the movie, but either way, this is a fairly intimate and realistic kind of war film. It's got beautiful cinematography that almost makes this feel like a documentary. The violence is so confronting and so realistic that you feel like you are watching the real thing. It is a very harrowing, very deeply dramatic movie. It's a very moving and emotional movie as well, with some great performances in here. This is a movie that I watched a long time ago. It's been available on Blu-ray for some time in Australia. I think the original release was from Umbrella. That's long out of print now. So now, if you do want to get your hands on the movie, it is available in this box set right here. I would recommend this. This is a really beautifully crafted movie. I know a lot of people will probably find this a little bit tedious, a little bit boring, because it is, again, not your traditional war film. It's more of an emotional, character-driven piece that kind of puts a little spotlight on this moment in history, and I would recommend it. Next up, we have got The Mission, starring Robert De Niro and Jeremy Irons. Deep in the jungles of South America, 2 men bring God to a native tribe. One a Jesuit missionary, the other a reformed slave trader. After years of struggle together, they find themselves faced with an agonizing choice: obey papal dictate and abandon the mission, or remain to defend the Indians they cherish. This new release of the movie includes a brand new documentary on the making of composer Ennio Morricone's score and an interview with cinematographer Chris Menzies. It also includes a number of archival interviews and an archival audio commentary by director Roland Joffé and a theatrical trailer. The Mission is a movie I have wanted to see for so long. It's highly regarded as one of the greats. It's highly regarded as having one of the greatest scores ever composed for cinema, of course, by the incredible Ennio Morricone. This is a gorgeous score. If you don't know anything about the movie, you do know the title theme from this, which is Gabriel's Oboe, which is such a beautifully haunting song. It's also well known for its beautiful cinematography. It's a movie that's been available available on Blu-ray for some time in Australia. Again, Umbrella had a release of this out probably 10 or so years ago. It's been long out of print since then though, so it's great to finally have this one back on the market. I've had that Umbrella disc in my collection for ages and just have never got around to watching this one. It's one that I've always felt like I kind of needed to be in the mood for, and I think I was kind of right, because I did finally get around to this excitedly, and I found it just, unfortunately this wasn't a film that was for me. This is a movie that I found to be really quite boring. Irons and De Niro deliver great performances here. Everything that has been hailed about this movie over the years is great. The cinematography is fantastic. This is just a beautifully looking movie. Morricone's score is gorgeous and it's worth watching for that alone. But other than that, I just found this to be a just really tediously boring movie that I just could not get into. But again, I had Ennio Morricone's gorgeous score to guide me through it and made it worth watching. Next up, we have got Fat Man and Little Boy starring Paul Newman. In the remote desert of New Mexico, the Manhattan Project is materializing, the World War II effort to build the atomic bomb. General Leslie Groves is the military man in charge of a massive project that will produce 2 weapons, Fat Man and Little Boy. This edition is complemented by 2 brand new bonus features, including an interview with actor Dwight Schultz and a documentary on the making of composer Ennio Morricone's score. It's also bundled with a bunch of archival bonus features, including vintage promotional interviews, a promotional featurette, B-roll production footage, and a theatrical trailer. Now this is a movie, again, I somehow had never heard of. It stars one of my favourite actors of all time, Paul Newman, sort of in his twilight years, towards the end of his career, and it is a World War II movie about the Manhattan Project. This is just something that really seems right up my alley. I love war movies. I just think they're so fascinating. I love learning about history and all this stuff, and this seems like a movie that I would have seeked out years ago had I known that it existed. Unfortunately, it was a little bit of a letdown. This is not the greatest movie out there. Paul Newman doesn't give the greatest performance of his career. A lot of these kind of later ones, you feel like he's just there to kind of, you know, keep the money rolling in. Can't blame anyone for doing that, but this is certainly not one of his greatest movies or greatest performances. In fact, this just feels like a really paint-by-numbers biopic about the Manhattan Project, which just kind of jumps from one thing to the next, and it feels like a very procedural, just kind of thing. I feel like there could have been a lot more tension in this. There could have been a lot more drama. It just felt like a very run-of-the-mill kind of movie. Of course, we have got Oppenheimer from Christopher Nolan coming very soon this year, which is going to be covering this exact same topic. And from Nolan, I know we're going to get a whole lot more than what we got in this movie. We're going to get the tension, we're going to get the visuals, we're going to get all of that. But again, if you're a fan of Paul Newman, this one is worth watching. Next up, we have got City of Joy, starring Patrick Swayze. A disillusioned surgeon travels to India after a young patient dies on the operating table, but his determination to quit medicine is challenged when he meets a committed British nurse who runs a free clinic in Calcutta's most dangerous neighbourhood. This one is complemented by a brand new interview with actor Art Malik and a number of archival interviews with the cast and key creatives. This set also includes a bonus disc including feature-length documentary Prisoners of Our Own History, the first 4 films of Roland Joffé, which is exclusive to this box set. City of Joy is the movie that is commonly considered to have essentially killed Roland Joffé's career. He's a filmmaker who had 2 stellar movies. His very first 2 movies, Killing Fields and The Mission, and then after that, everything just rapidly fell downhill. All the movies he did after City of Joy were either B movies or movies that were just really badly received, movies that were done for television, stuff like that. He really doesn't do a whole lot of stuff, really hasn't done a whole lot of stuff in the years since this one. And this one was made 1992. So, you know, unfortunately, he's one of those creatives that kind of fell off the cliff, so to speak. I understand why this movie was not really received well at the time. Interestingly, to see that a movie like this wasn't received well at the time, this is a movie where essentially Patrick Swayze plays the white savior role, where he swoops in as a doctor and essentially solves all the medical issues of those living in Calcutta. And it's supposed to be, you know, really deeply emotional and dramatic, and it's just such a problematic movie. And for a movie to be called out on that in the 1990s is huge. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything to enjoy in this. Patrick Swayze delivers a good performance, his heart's really in it, but it just is such a problematic movie that I couldn't find anything to enjoy about this. Again, cinematography and all of that stuff is great, as with, you know, all of Joff's films right here, but this is a movie that just is not it. That is it for the Roland Joff box set. Now we have a number of individual releases to take a look at from this wave. First, we've got number 188, School Ties. Starring a stellar cast including Brendan Fraser, Chris O'Donnell, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck. After receiving a scholarship to an exclusive prep school, working-class teen David Green becomes a star athlete and wins the attention of a beautiful debutante. But the ties of his newfound friendships are broken when a student reveals the secret David has tried to conceal. The film is complemented by a brand new audio commentary by filmmaker and film historian Jim Hemphill and a number of archival interviews with the cast. School Ties is one of those movies I have heard about over and over again over the years. This is a film that sports one of the earliest, if not in some cases, the earliest film performances from such great actors that I mentioned at the beginning. People who would go on to become big stars in their own right. These are all people who I really admire, particularly Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Brendan Fraser. And yeah, this is a really decent movie. This is a really good dramatic film from the early 1990s. All of these actors, you can understand how they went on to become who they became because their acting prowess is here right from the start. It's got really great drama, it's got really great emotional, really great character work in here, and I just loved it all over. I'm really glad that I finally had a chance to see this, and really great that Imprint has been able to get this one out on Blu-ray. Next up, we've got number 189, ladies and gentlemen, The Fabulous Stains, starring Diane Lane, Ray Winston, and Laura Dern. Corinne Burns is a typical frustrated teenager living in a nowhere town until she catches punk band The Looters. Bewitched by the whole punk scene, she and her fledgling band, The Stains, join the tour and in no time at all become media magnets. This one is complemented by a brand new audio commentary by film critic and author Lee Gambin and musician journalist Alison Wolfe, a brand new video essay by film historian Kat Ellinger, and another brand new video essay by author Sarah Marcus. It also includes a new interview with actress Debbie Rochon. Additionally, the film comes with a number of archival bonus features, including 2 audio commentaries and an interview with actress Maren Cantor. Now, this is a movie that normally wouldn't be kind of in my wheelhouse. I'm not a huge fan of punk rock, punk music, these kind of teen rebelling movies from the 1980s, these dramatic ones anyway, I've never really been a huge fan of. When you come to like the comedic things, the John Hughes things, then we can talk. I love those movies. But these kind of dramatic teen movies from the 80s, 90s, not really anything I've ever really fallen in for. This is a movie that has a huge cult following. Of course, Laura Dern and Diane Lane are 2 actresses who have huge cult followings, and their performances here are absolutely stellar. Again, you can see where their talent was recognized when you watch these 2 early performances right here. They're both so great, and of course Ray Winston is great in this too. Didn't love the movie. I thought it was a little bit tedious for me, but again, this is not normally my kind of thing, so I didn't really expect to love it, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was enjoyable enough. I really mostly enjoyed to see these 2 early screen performances, and again, huge cult following for this one, so props to Imprint for getting this one out on Blu-ray as well. We've also got City of God. In the streets of the world's most notorious slum, Rio de Janeiro's City of God, a frail and scared young boy will grow up to discover that he can view the harsh realities of his surroundings with a different eye. The movie comes with no new bonus features, but includes an archival featurette and an archival documentary. Now, this is a movie that has been aching for a Blu-ray release for absolutely ever. This is a movie that is highly considered one of the greatest ever made, and it is a stellar film. I haven't seen it for a long time, but I'm so happy that we finally got it here on Blu-ray, and I will be revisiting it very soon. As I said, I've had so many things landing in my lap recently that I had to watch all the ones I hadn't watched, and then I'll get to the ones that I have watched again at some time in the future, but I'm really, really happy to have this one on Blu-ray. This is such a beautifully crafted movie. The editing, the camera work. This is really one of the first movies that made great use of that kind of handheld camera work to make this movie feel really documentarian. It feels real. Again, it's another one of those movies that feels like you're watching something real happen in front of you, but it also has this kind of fantastical element to it as well. It is edited at this breakneck speed. The whole movie moves at a breakneck speed. It has this incredible energy to it that just feels incredibly overwhelming. This is a spectacular film. The story is so deeply emotional and in some parts heartwarming. It's incredibly violent, confronting and full on, and absolutely everything. This movie has like absolutely all the emotions going through it. It's like a absolute roller coaster, but it is terrific, and I could highly recommend checking this one out. If you're going to pick up one title from this wave right here, it has to be City of God, because this is a spectacular film. And finally, we've got number 191, Distant Thunder, starring John Lithgow and Ralph Macchio. 18 years ago, Mark Lambert came back from Vietnam, but he hasn't come home yet. He is one of thousands of bush vets all across America. An uneasy reunion with the son he hardly knows accidentally sparks a harrowing fight for survival that will either destroy them or unify them forever. This one comes complemented by a brand new audio commentary by author David J. Moore and a theatrical trailer. Now, this is another one that I hadn't heard of until Imprint got this disc out here, and I was kind of intrigued to take a look at it. I really like John Lithgow's work. I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot over the years, but what he has done is always really great. He's such a fantastic performer. Ralph Macchio is you know, he's Ralph Macchio. He's the Karate Kid. He didn't really do a whole lot outside of the Karate Kid. So I was kind of keen to take a look at this. I mean, I understand why I've never heard of this one. It's not one of the greatest movies ever. It feels very generic. You know, around the time this movie was made, there were a whole lot of these kind of anti-Vietnam War movies coming out about, you know, ex-vets coming home with PTSD and how that affected them and affected their lives and their families and all that kind of stuff. And this just feels like kind of a run-of-the-mill kind of one of these movies. It almost feels in some parts like a bit of like a Rambo First Blood light. It kind of covers a lot of the same ground as First Blood, but doesn't do it anywhere near as good. It's also fairly tedious and boring. Not a lot happens here. It's a hard one to sit through. But again, John Lithgow is a really great performer, and he delivers a really good performance in this movie. And if you're a fan of him, it's definitely worth checking this one out. But apart from that, there's really not much going for this movie right here. And that is all the titles from Imprint Wave 23. I also do have Imprint Wave 24 to cover as well. They're the December 2022 titles. We're going to be doing that in a separate video, so make sure you stay tuned for that one. That's going to be up in a few days to a week or so. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you on that next one. Take it easy.